I'm back with yet another episode and with yet another leader. And this is going to be a very different conversation. Our guest today is the founder of Attitude Makeover, a platform that helps people navigate change in their careers, identities, relationships, and personal lives. After spending over 25 years in the corporate world across engineering, product strategy, and leadership at companies like Bharat Electricals, HP, GE, she stepped away to explore something deeper and how real lasting transformation happens. Today, she brings together systems thinking, behavioral psychology, and storytelling to help people make sense of change. Her work speaks to those who are in transition, be it mid career professionals, individuals going through identity shifts, or anyone who's paused to ask, what's next for me? Through her podcast. Now, you see, this is one podcaster speaking to another podcaster. Interesting, right? Through her podcast, workshops, tools, and reflective content, she offers practical ways to rethink personal power, move through uncertainty, and rebuild with intention. Her voice is honest, grounded, and often laced with humor. At the heart of it, she believes that change isn't something we have to endure. It's something we can design one step at a time. Please welcome Sowjanya Shetty. Welcome, Sowjanya. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Usha. It's such a lovely, it's an honor to be here. Having met you to finally being here,
And
I'm very excited. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm super excited. This has been a long time coming. The number
Yeah.
of postponements we have had. Really looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise here.
All right. So tell us about your growing up years. What was it like? What were the challenges? What sort of environment did you grow up in?
So there's two sides to my growing up story. I think one part of it is I grew up in a community. I grew up in this Bharat Electronics campus. So it's and for those who don't know the history of it, Bangalore opened to technology in the late 60s or early 70s. And my
Mhm.
parents migrated from Bangalore, and my dad was working in BEL. So I grew up, I was born in Mangalore, which is a coastal town in Karnataka. I speak Tulu at home, and dad and mom moved here. Um, so there's a lot of things from the community that I have in me as a default because I grew up in a space like that where everybody were migrants, everybody were, trying to grow for themselves and the family both here as well as back home. So it was a different kind of a vibe to be part of
Mhm.
that. Um, but also early years was adverse. Like there was adversity in life. We lost my dad when I was like 3 or around that,
So,
and it was just mom, me, and my sister. My sister was a little less than a year. Mom herself was like very young. So adversity has been something very foundational in terms of teachings or learnings for me. Whether it is understanding the role of what it means to be independent financially as well as just independent. Growing up at home, there was no patriarchy inside the house. But when you step outside, you could see it.
yeah.
And then mom was very clear that I can't afford many things, but I'm going to give you a gift of education. And that's something that'll help you survive anywhere. And I feel I decently thrived. So for me, my mom is my hero. Um, but I think books, because she was working and we were very small, so we didn't have the luxury of helps and other things. So She would lock us inside the house, give us the key, and go to work and come back. So, books, music, and observing people, they became her teachers in a lot of ways. A very important part of my early years has been this understanding of, what resilience is.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it is deeply engraved in me as a belief system that clarity is not something that someone gives you in an envelope. It's something you really build by engaging with life. And so I don't take things that come to me for granted because it comes because someone wanted it to be part of us, right? So early years were both fun growing up in. Eventually, we settled down. Mom managed to get us in a comfortable state. But I think those early years were very foundational in terms of how I look at life, how I see people, some of my strong beliefs, both about myself as well as um, people around, my understanding of what a community is, my perspectives on patriarchy, and being a woman anywhere in this world. Um, a lot of things are very foundational in the early years for me. Long answer, no?
Oh, lovely. I mean, I can't say lovely story, but I think the whole learning out of an adversity, I think that definitely is a teacher. My upbringing, I have some similarities. I just realized as you were talking. So my dad was in Air Force, so I've grown up in Air Force camps, right? So it's similar, like it's a community, people from different parts of the country come together. It's like
Yeah,
really cosmopolitan, right?
yeah,
So, and you pretty much grew up in each other's houses, eating each other's food, things like that. I lost my dad early on, not that young, but still, I was just getting out of college, and what not having a father in like in that in the Indian context, what that means. I think you
yeah,
just realize when that
yeah,
happens. And I remember telling my mom, like, "Mom, stand by me." I knew it was going to be tough, right? Because like when you're grown up with especially a father like me who gave complete independence and had full trust and all of that. Suddenly, when that's gone, like everybody wants to have a say in your life,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I was just recollecting all of that. And I, I could, as you're saying that you learn from observing people and having so many conversations with you, that's something that I really noticed is your ability to observe very minute details
yeah,
every
yeah.
day. So I think that's really something that you've
I have to
been.
tell you this. So I talk a lot about power these days, right? But all this is more hindsight and reflections kind of thing. But um, the early years of observation, I saw power. So because mom was in HR and BL, power was always orbiting around us, whether it is power of a surname or a last name, power of money, power of job titles, power of beauty and charm, all kinds of power. I've observed it, right? And some are nice, some are not nice. Being experiencing the not so nice things about it as well as the nice things like the power of because it was so cosmo,
Hmm.
you language was something that easily comes to me. I love languages. I pick up languages very quickly. Books and music are an integral part of me. So you just play any music, and I'm able to catch the song very quickly because it goes back to the early years again. So my early years of understanding power was just by observing, and I only got better and better in reading through it and understanding it in the later part of my journey, I think.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's so important. I think, especially corporate setup. Coming to which, you have had 25 years of corporate life and some of the best or well known organizations like Microsoft and BE as well, right? Bharat
yeah,
Electricals.
yeah,
HP, if I go
Yeah.
back. So, um, and then you left all of that and started something new. So I'm very curious, like, what made you take that leap of faith?
So I think it was not like one day I just decided, okay, this is it. First thing, right? Like I said, growing up, I think I always had this entrepreneurial, um, you know, kida in me.
Okay.
Um, the thing was not about becoming one of the topmost unicorn or something, but it's a whole thing of like just going and experimenting. I learned very early on that I'm a very experiential learner.
Mhm.
So around 15 or 17, around that time, I went and sold my notes because someone told me you capture very good notes. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I earned money. Like when you earn money for the first time, I don't know about others. As that young child, I felt like, huh, not bad. I think I can really survive. That confidence in my own self became much more stronger, and it only evolved from there. Um, and then I married my kindergarten classmate who had very similar financial values as me. A relationship with money is very similar to mine. So when we got married, one of the things we agreed on is no loans, and we would like to save to retire at 45. Retire to do what and all we didn't discuss, but we want to retire at 45. um, I don't think I would have done that without him being part of this. um, but as I then moved different jobs, and I changed jobs, or jobs, not companies, but jobs and roles very
Mhm.
regularly. Like every 3 years, something else was changing. Either an industry I'm working in, or the products I'm working in, or the base or the demography I'm working with, etc. So change was an integral part. And when you go through so much change, I realized I have two parallel worlds. So there's a professional journey you see, but in order to support that kind of a shift, some of them were very huge identity shifts. I had something else happening in parallel on a personal front, the entrepreneurial journey. So I started. I worked in a cigarette wholesale cigarette shop in the US in the East Coast. And I knew nothing about cigarettes, but I was like just curious to know how an end-to-end business runs, especially a small scale or a SME business. I came back to India and I got this as a first program manager at HP. And they said you need to have a CEO mindset. Where will I get CEO mindset? I don't even know what that is. So I started Bubble Wrap, which was about gifting experiences. At a later stage, I got promoted to this role as a master solutions program manager for a pretty big, substantial program. And I had to understand what scaling meant, building at scale. So Badlo India happened on this side. It's my other entrepreneurial stint. These were not like, yeah, so they were always a parallel universe for me. So this was like an obvious journey. But I think the second wave of COVID hit me a little differently. Lost a couple of colleagues, and it's not specifically about the company I was working in, but somehow I had this flash of realization that I'm just a number. And I didn't like that. I didn't want to be a number. And I came home one day and I said, I think I'm done. I want to change. And uh, my mom was the only one who was like, what's wrong with you? Why? No. Like, right, but everybody else at home, like my husband was like, yeah, sure. And so it was a much more gradual shift for me. It was not like sudden, just like that I pulled the rug under my feet. uh, but yet it was very difficult. But that parallel life that I had really gave me that thing of, it's okay, it's all right, we can figure this out. I didn't even know what I wanted to do, But I felt like, very rarely does one get a chance at 45, 46 to reset.
Yeah.
And my whole set of women coming from my family live long. So I felt like I'm going to be at least another 40 years. So this is a great opportunity. Like I said, I don't take things that come my way lightly. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, so then that's why it's called Attitude Makeover, because I had to go through a complete attitude shift for myself.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't think of others at that time. It's first me, right? So it was my attitude makeover first. And I felt like, okay, there are more people like me. Oh, interesting. Kind of thing happened. So yeah, so that's been the long story short of how, left the corporate world of 25 years.
That's awesome. And I realized you had so many different ventures throughout, like parallel paths with the
Yeah,
corporate life.
yeah. So I have friends. So this used to be my hobby. So I have, they say don't go to work to make friends. I have some lovely people I worked with, some of the best I worked with, right? In all these industries, I think because I worked in some lovely companies, I've had the best researchers, the best innovators, the best business guys. Um, I've really worked with some of the best companies, culture, people. I've been very picky about that. I've been very picky. I've said no to so many things just to be around the right thing. And that had a big impact in terms of very foundational things. Like I told you, early years was about observing power where it was orbiting around me. These 25 years, I felt I was in power as I grew up in different roles. But I still didn't find myself to be powerful. I was still around powerful people. I never found myself to be powerful. So if you had met me then, well, you are in an amazing role, but assume you were just a young person who's coming to the industry, you would have been like, wow, that's so cool what you're doing. But I never found, I just found the work interesting, but I never found myself to be powerful of any kind. I didn't
Okay.
like any visibility. I didn't like, I just liked being in the background and doing my work. Was not the kind who was at the forefront of, picking the mic and talking or anything. So yeah, so
Yeah.
that was a big shift from uh,
Yeah.
25 years to this one.
Interesting. That's actually a makeover, sort of,
Yeah, yeah, that's why I said it's my makeover because the corporate world is great in terms of some things, right? Like suddenly the power I got exposed to is like nice power, right? From that haphazard, chaotic power I saw as a child, when I came to this world, it was very different. It's structured. It's got a
Mm.
vision. It's got metrics. It's got storytelling. It's got other things, passive aggressive behavior, all the other things as well. But I was observant of that before itself, so it just carried into this. But this power I saw was really nice. I liked it. So to shift from there to completely out of that was a massive shift for me uh, when I left the corporate world. So it was like, wow, kind of a thing.
Yeah, have some friends who left corporate and are now doing something on their own, but they feel like it's a different life altogether. Like sometimes it's difficult to imagine that you were living that life earlier, and
Yeah,
it seems like completely cut off and so
yeah.
very different.
Yeah, very much. Very much. I think when I started podcasting is where I started observing the difference because I decided since I was going through so much change, I'm going to
Hmm.
invite guests who've gone through change. And I'm going to pick topics that I am stuck. Like I said, the initial 25, 30 episodes at least, I didn't think of others. Um, I had boxed myself as I'm shy, I'm introvertish, I'm very shallow in my conversations. I don't connect on a deeper level with people. I had definitions of myself, and I felt, these need to change. Uh, so I went, that's why I chose video, even though, just sitting in front of the camera is the most difficult. I chose conversations, although you're trained in the corporate world to be perfect in how you speak, everything you say, everything is, vulnerability is not looked at as a strength out there. And as I started getting guests from non-corporate, like artists, like singers and musicians, they thrived in telling the story of vulnerability, right? That's the whole thing. And I
Yeah.
realized what a big shift that is in how you see yourself. So my podcasts are more my mentoring one-to-one first, and then it paved way for one-to-many for others. But it was first my learnings itself. They were like each hour was like gifted to me kinds. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Many people fear the change, right? But you still went ahead and designed this for yourself. So, like, designing change is what you call it. So, uh, how do you like really look at everyday life? How can people design change and be successful through that?
So so as a child growing up, you read that change is a constant. Everybody tells you change is a constant, right? And I don't think that.
Corporate jargon. I thought you're gonna.
No, everyone. Like you'd go, when I first got married and I went to Kerala, I didn't know Malayalam. And everybody spoke in Malayalam. So it was all flying over my head. And there was this old uncle in my husband's family who came and told me, if you are expecting them to learn your language, I think you will just distance yourself. So it's easier for you to learn their language. So it's the same with change. Change is so hard, and yet it is a constant. And oftentimes, uh, we wait till life just suddenly abruptly changes, either health, some kind of a loss, some kind of a relationship thing, or career change. Things happen, and things happen suddenly, and then you're like pushed into from the tip of the cliff to jump, and that's very hard. And I felt like I said early on, that adversity stint taught us that you should be ready for it. You should
Yeah.
be having a different perspective on it, and which is why I said I don't take things for granted when it comes to me. Anything that comes my way, I don't take it for granted. And then this whole experience of these journeys that I told you, whether it is selling my notes or this bubble wrap and all these other things, there were concept behind it. There's a concept called slow motion multitasking. You don't put goals. I mean, you will have a goal. I want to learn to write, let's say, right? And I'll stay put at it. It will be there in my head all the time. Oh, I've not done this. Oh, I need to go back. And it's not like I've got a big goal. Tomorrow I'm going to be Arundhati Roy. I probably want to write a line every day, right? And there might be days I'm not able to write, but it's me. I'm not telling anybody about it. It's just me working with myself. So this
Mhm.
concept of slow motion multitasking allows you to take things very gradually.
Mhm.
It's not like abrupt just like that. It's like when you're going through your career or any phase where things are going great and you're peaking, that's the time to start learning something new and investing like just 10 minutes. Some days you won't be able to do it, and it's perfectly fine. But I felt like that is a big uh, game changer in how you look at things. You look at so a lot of people look at mistakes as failure, like oh my god, how, like and for me it is not. It is like if there are no mistakes, it's like something's wrong. Something's genuinely wrong in the whole thing, right? And it allows you to just take a chill pill through stress, because
Yeah.
what's the worst that can happen? You already anticipated. It's like driving in India. When you're driving in India, you don't know who that person is in front. When they turn like this, but they're going this way all the time, You know that person is going left instead of right. So it's the same. Change comes, it doesn't come announced. But I feel if you just change your perspective of how you look at it, and be prepared with some basic scaffolding. Like I think some things people, especially in the corporate world, I've seen. I train quite a lot. That's where we met, right? In our conversations, there's been about 6,000 plus people I've either had keynotes or like one to one or one to few sessions. And this I've noticed. First thing is you're comfortable, why change, things are working now, that's a big part of it. And the second thing is the fear of uncertainty. You see, I told you about clarity, right? Everybody waits for clarity to happen and
Yeah.
then plunge, whereas I feel clarity comes through movement, and
Yes.
it's not a precondition. It You get it as you take baby steps, one step at a time. And I feel, again, our schools don't teach us this. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like now that you say, I've my journey has been pretty similar. Like I've normally plunged, taken the step, and then thought about it. And I used to be sort of uncomfortable with acknowledging it or even talking about it, that I have done so many varied things and sort of jack of all and master of none. And now, recently, like I've had some conversations with interns and, like other women who are trying to find their way and stuff. And I realized that through their uh, expressions, that oh my god, this is so good, right? You've done
yeah,
so many different things and still managed to be relatively successful. So I think that's also one thing, is that stigma of being typecast, right? Like you have a box and we have a set path that, so people have laid out, right? If you do engineering, do data all these things, or if you do finance, for example, you go this way. So I think that's the uh, cage that we struggle
yeah,
with.
yeah. I think you talked about how we look at it, right? A big part, and especially women, I feel are much more um, um, comfortable with change, I would think, much more mature with change
Yeah,
than men. And I'm probably contradicting many beliefs out there. But see the kind of changes we go through in life.
yeah. Yeah,
Like
because
there's,
a lot of times you're placed in situations which isn't of your choice, right? And then you
exactly.
have to just start
Yes,
from there, from
yes,
scratch. Yeah.
yes. So, and that's why we know. So the scaffoldings are very important, and we fail to talk much about it. Whether it is financial scaffolding, support systems. Like oftentimes, I've seen Women's Day. We create a panel when we talk about. Of course, these days it's a little better, but back then they used to talk about work-life balance. How do you do work-life balance and things like that. For me, growing up in a working mom's home.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Like one needs to really just observe to see how do they do it. Like they do that, they do this, then they take care of your education, everything, right? Is taken care of by one person. It's not easy. So I think it's very important to sort of hold that scaffolding and build that. Be very purposeful
Mm.
about that. What are
Yeah.
some of these? Like I think money, relationships, like your support system, someone you can trust, and just be natural in in talking about your vulnerabilities, your fears. Because I'll give you an example. Early on in HP, there was Kali was the CEO of HP, and she had come and she'd set up this mentoring circle.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was one of the most beautiful experiences I had, where she had 13 women who had come in for mentoring, and she would every week invite different women from all over the world
Mhm.
to come and talk about various topics. What topics were decided by the 13 women? And we would then go about talking about that. So, mentoring is a lovely thing to tap into in this scaffolding, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, they become sponsors of you as well, because it's a very trust-based relationship. And in that whole process, I understood not just, oh, this is how Carly is telling us, but also the others. I tried this. This worked for me. Here's what I have tried in terms of work-life balance. A simple conversation is work-life balance. You'll get 6 or 8 different solutions that different women have tried,
Yeah.
and you'll pick which one applies to you. Change nowadays, though, is no longer once in 3 years or something. It's at an accelerating pace,
Yeah.
right? So then it's very demanding of us then to be ready to change. And if you are not there, then you become a yesterday already.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So it is very important thereby to build that scaffolding first, I feel. And
Sure.
that's where we struggle.
Agree completely. So, when you've spoken to all these different individuals who've gone through this big changes, and what's the common misconception about change that you've come across, and how did people navigate through those?
The most common thing is uncertainty, dealing with uncertainty. I don't know. I'm not sure about it. I'm
Hmm.
fine here, so I don't know about that. I think that's the one, like I talked about earlier, clarity. The other one that I have observed is, change goes through this sinusoidal wave. Um,
Hmm.
it happens. You start riding the wave, you peak at some point, and then you drop, and then you
Yeah.
hit rock bottom. Rock bottom could mean different things for different people, but nonetheless, we all go through this sinusoid wave. What is different for each one that I have observed is the wavelength.
Hmm.
How long it takes for you to go from one, the start of the change to the next
Yeah.
change,
Hmm.
um, the wave. How do
Hmm.
you ride the wave? And I think that is different for different people. And that comes down to very basic things like money, support system, trust in yourself and your what you bring to the table, or values that you bring to the table, um, um, belief in yourself, just the whole belief that this is me and this is uniqueness of people. See, all of us have gone through this. The way
Yeah.
you've dealt with your sine wave to the way I've dealt with my sine wave is where our uniqueness lies. That's where our
Yeah.
beliefs lie. That's where our wisdom lies. That's where our experience lies. But somehow I feel, especially as working professionals, our identity sort of is only related to the work that we do. Like earlier, when I was in the corporate world, if you ever met me, I would say, "Hey, I'm Sowjanya. I work for so and so company. I'm and my title, right?
Yeah.
When I quit and I started Attitude Makeover, no one knew Sowjanya, no one knew Attitude Makeover. And I myself was suspecting everything about me. What do I do? Do I have anything that is valuable for others? Yeah, I've done A, B, C, D, but now what? Where does this head? So I feel this is a very common problem. How we put this problem statement is different. Men put it differently, women put it very differently. But in
Right.
the end, the wavelength, the duration it takes for us to go through change, that's been one very prominent thing, and it's very different for different people. How has it been for you? Have
On
you
the
experienced?
Yeah, I think I'm not as observant and intros I don't introspect too much. I've started lately, but over the years, like I've just gone through it. Now when I introspect, I feel like, okay, these were the reasons why, I came through the change. And it's sort of, I go through certain motions. It's my sort of fighting mechanism of, handling a situation. So I'm like extremely optimistic. So for my always the glass is half full, right? There is always something new that I will pick up and go through it. So for me, it's always like, let's get through this situation. and then we'll see what happens. Like it's
Yeah.
for everything, whether it is momentary or if it is like I know this is going to last some other time. I'm always thinking, skip path, what will I do, right? So what will I do after all of this? So I think that's been something that has worked for me. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
actually, that is very powerful as well, right? Like, um, so it's not it's not about the outcome. Let me just get through this, and then we'll figure the next. That's
Yeah.
exactly the small steps, right? Being comfortable doing that. That requires you to believe in yourself first. Like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? I'll go back and reset to the
Yeah.
next previous one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because then you're only focused on that situation. Then it sort of like drowns you in that the fear, agony, whatever, right? The sadness of that situation. Where it's like if you start thinking about what happens once I overcome this, I think that
Yeah.
gives you a little bit motivation to look forward to what's ahead. So, but now I think at least in career, what I've since I picked up so many different things, it's the reason to do that have been multiple things, right? Initial the switch that I made from being a quality analyst in a pharmaceutical firm to jumping to sales. Like complete, like people are like, "What are you doing?" Right? That was just because I got bored, and then I
Yeah.
wanted to do something else. Like
Yeah.
opposite to what you were thinking, I was like, I want to be with people, right? So I can't be locked in the lab for all my career. So that's how I switched. But without no rhyme or reason, like why would
Mm.
you choose sales, and why would you choose sales in a completely different space? Like I was selling copiers. So, so those were just abrupt, brash, just because I was young and I wasn't thinking
No, I
straight.
think that this is where I feel like that's something. Actually, you bring out a very interesting, um, thing I observed during my sessions as well. The ones who are able to maneuver the wavelength, right,
Hmm,
between the waves, um, it's shorter for people who are like this. Like,
hmm,
I'm going to experiment. What's the worst that can happen? And it's pretty bold, right? I'm taking something that I've never done. Um, because you have the confidence that what's the worst, I can go back to something else that I've done. You have that belief in yourself, and that's a big game changer. And another part that I also want to add is we normally talk about change only from a career perspective, but as professionals, when this is such an obvious thing, but I understood it in a better way when I started running these experiences or the workshops that I do. Sometimes your career might be just perfect and great, but your relationship might be going through some shit, or your health might be going through some, turmoil. Um,
yeah,
the expectation in your job doesn't change. So, what I have come to understand is we somehow have made an identity out of our career, but we are much more than that. There's a lot more happening in a 360-degree view of a person. There's health, there's belonging, there's love, there's relationship, there's your own personal growth, money, everything, right? There's so much more that's happening outside of it.
yeah,
And so this is why change is hard because we don't think system. When we think of change, we only think of one piece, whereas you're the whole, you're a bigger architecture than just one application that you're looking at.
right.
And I feel we miss that. We miss that completely. And the moment you observe how this whole thing fits in and you're aware of that, change becomes a way with jugards. We're master of jugards, especially Indian culture. We all know
Yeah.
once we have clarity, we know. Because in school, we are taught if I give you the problem, you know how to solve it. How to find the right problem we don't, we're not taught. So this is where we struggle. So what you
Yeah.
said is so apt because le lete hai, what's the worst that can happen? I can go back to my previous one. So it's cool. But that belief in yourself, it starts with that. And then from there it just expands, right? So this is a very important thing you brought up as well over here.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. We're always finding solutions to problems. We're like, find the right problem to solve is also an
Yeah,
important.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I was very early in the career. There was this whole drive for Six Sigma certificate, black belt certification, and I
Mhm.
had this mentor called Brett Dodd. So there are two things he taught me about uh, metrics, right? One is if you don't measure it, you don't even know what's happening there.
Yeah.
So becoming aware is like that. The second part is it's also about then having a leading metrics and a balancing metrics. So we forget the balancing metrics. Oftentimes, this is a story of many Indian startups as well. Oh, customers are coming, great. The company is doing very good. But there are other balancing metrics that you need to see is it really that change that is causing this impact, or is it something else which is just momentary in nature? Um, we are not taught all this. So I think this is where we need to talk more about some of these nuances that we don't even talk about when we think about change.
Right. Right. Wow. Okay. So now let's change gears a little bit. We've spoken a lot
Okay.
about and we uh at least in this podcast, we focus on at least one story that you have to say. You've already told so many stories, but a story that from either it could be your personal life or from your career where you like struggled with uncertainty, and then how did you get over that? And any challenges also. I mean, it doesn't have to be uncertainty, but I'm looking at more like leadership lessons that you might have gained through an incident.
Um, so I told you, right? So post pandemic, second wave of
Hmm.
pandemic, I decided, okay, I'm going to take the plunge. And I started Attitude Makeover. And I've gone through change so many times. I was like, TK, this should be cool. This should be easy. Um, but when you go through identity shifts, have you? I'll give you an analogy with interrupts. So, in software and technology, like this is your hardware, right? So there is a hardware, there's a middleware, and then there's a software, and there are
Yeah.
layers of it. Like right, it's all stacked up. Now, when you work on chips and hardware, there's something called an interrupt. An interrupt is like a change that has happened to a routine. And an interrupt means the hardware, like if I touch this, that's an interrupt. And the hardware then has to stop whatever it's doing and communicate very quickly to all the layers above in a shortest way, hey, changes happen and then return back to normalcy. So I felt like, okay, this is like an interrupt. We're going through, we're cool because you've dealt with change so many times. But
Yeah.
then you've worked for 25 years and salary is such an addiction. it Then all my other stints as entrepreneurial journeys were when I was working in a company. So the risk aspect was much more lighter, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly here the salary is stopped. Identity has tectonically changed for Sowjanya.
Yeah.
No one knows her outside. And I myself have pushed the boundaries of my own definitions of who am I to say I'm going to do videos. And somewhere the corporate world gives you the confidence that it's okay. It's a matter of 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and you'll figure out. Podcasting is a freaking long marathon. And in my head, I had this expectation that 3 months, Saujanya, and we will be fine. Ghanta. No, it is big. Yeah, it is not as simple as that. And here on LinkedIn, and all people are writing, "This is so cool. It's so courageous of you." And I'm like shitting bricks at home. What was I thinking? And along with that comes I'm 45, 46 by then, and nobody's talked to us about perimenopause and that adds so much masala to this whole drama that you're actually going through in life. Everything is questioned, right? Oh, who am I? Am I even worth anything? To, oh my God, I don't even have money. Relationship with money changes. Everything is questioned. I think that was a big tectonic shift. And it's because I went through that, I understood the combo of system thinking, understanding behavior and patterns or the psychology of change, and then how to incorporate agility into this whole thing,
Mm.
and thereby then how to go through change, right? I think if I hadn't gone through that, it took me about 6 to 8 months to stabilize through these tectonic shifts that I'm talking about. Because when your mind is not centered, your body is not centered. And when your body and mind are not centered, your relationships are really fucked up. Sorry, can you swear in your podcast?
That you have
I can redo this podcast.
to do that. That's new guidelines.
But yeah, so your the social you also changes because you question everything, right? I went about questioning everything, every relationship with myself, with everybody else. I don't know. It's probably perimenopause or probably the shift that is happening, and then the inner you as well. It's like holding a mirror and a map. Both are blurry in the beginning. You keep cleaning both to see, okay, this is where I'm headed. But you have a fair idea. So I've come to understand we underestimate the power of core values. So in all the companies I've worked, right, there is this core value. I don't think I even paid attention to it. Although I was very attracted culturally, I was very aligned to those core values. That's why I believe I survived and thrived in those companies. But I never understood the role of culture and values till this shift happened, this tectonic shift happened. Because I then understood what is that single thread or the main OS thread that's holding the whole thing together. It's this core value. So when you have that core value understood, then the mirror and the map starts becoming from blurred to little clarity to clarity to clarity. And in that, you gain patience as well,
Yeah.
in these small changes. So I think that was if you ask me, will I advise anybody to plunge like this? Oh, please don't. It is hard. Uh, and I think we don't talk enough about perimenopause and women's health
Yeah.
at all, whether it's in the corporate world or outside. I think there's a lot more conversations to be.
Insta posts on the topic, but yeah, I think probably it's a change that we are seeing now with a
Yeah,
lot of willing to talk about it.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I really like the way you talked about the values, both what you hold personally and how that translates into an organizational setup, right?
yes,
Because I think that we sometimes don't understand what's holding that thread.
yes,
And you talk
yes,
about a particular organization's culture or a particular person's value and what they bring to the table. It needs to be a first. It needs clarity to your point
yes,
earlier, and also consistently working on it. Right? You
yes,
have to be
yes,
always you show up as that individual all the time. You
yes,
can't have contradictory
yes.
behaviors. And similarly, I think culture has to just uphold it through the.
Actually, I want to talk a bit about culture, Usha. Um, we take it so lightly. I think in HP, I had this opportunity to head or to become a chief of staff to this amazing boss I had called Ajay Gupta.
Okay.
So the first day he came, we were an R&D. We were an what is it? It's an extended arm of the R&D hubs all over the world for HP printing groups. So we owned assets and components in Bangalore. So at some point, he wanted to change the whole thing. He was heading the organization. He came from the labs, so he had a different way of looking at things itself. He was a very beautiful mix of technology, business, and a vision as well, right? So, and at the same time, people were like, "You're crazy. Don't why you're comfortable here and all." But I had a lovely opportunity to work with him. So one evening he called me and he said, "I want to change the narrative for the hub here. I want us to be the R&D hub for all of the world, HP." Uh, and that evening he sent me a two-pager Word document. And for the first time, I understood culture very differently, in terms of just how he's visioning it, what is that vision he's painting, to what's the culture, how the culture plays a big role in a transformation. These are organizations, it's still individual transformation. I have not internalized that bit. But very early on, I had the fortune of working with people like this and seeing something like this. And then in Microsoft, I took up sales like you. Everybody should take up sales at some point in their life, I think.
I
Such a humbling experience. I cannot.
know, right? Nobody wants, nobody wants to buy anything from me.
No, and then you should do sales in India, not anywhere else. Like everywhere else, at least it is like there's some dignity. I feel there's some hardcore sellers would come and slip on me, but then I feel in India it's not just skills. I think you have to pack all your ego, keep it at home when you go to sell.
I attended one of the best trainings. I was working for Xerox. So Xerox those days was
Uh,
considered the best sales training organizations. Like, of course, they were selling for the organization, but so I think Xerox and McDonald's, if I'm not wrong,
uh,
were considered the best. So I've undergone all sorts of training, but ultimately, what sells, is what is your own thing, right? I don't think any of the
yeah,
trainings come handy
yeah,
when you're having that conversation with the
yeah,
customer. So we
very
all
much.
figure out our own ways to
Yeah.
influence, negotiate, all of. So yeah.
No, no, I agree. When I was in Microsoft is when I really understood the power of culture, the role of culture, right? So I was doing sales for the first time. Like I did sales in my business. But वहाँ पे
Yeah.
ना, I had still risk covered. Like if you don't buy my product, yeah, it's okay. My bread is not going to be like, hindered.
Yeah.
My feed is not stopped. But when I joined Microsoft and I took up BD role, I realized, so we have two quotas. We have selling your products or your system or solution sales, and then the adoption of it. So every adoption has benefits for you, and your success is measured by that. I found it a lot more. It's sales is hard, but I found it easier to sell technology. But that adoption, no, is so dependent on a mass coming together to adopt a change. And I found many leaders struggle with that because they might have a great intent of I want to transform this, but if your people are not changing at that pace and are not in sync with that, there's only so much pace you can pick up, or the depth of change that can happen. And
Yeah.
that was a huge eye-opening realization for me, which is also very key to how I decided I'll focus on individuals when it comes to change in attitude makeover. Because there are many players, all the big fives are running behind organizational transformation. While I know and understand that, I feel the bottleneck is us, each individual. So, how can we sort of empower one to see that and understand that and change for yourself and grow so
Yeah.
that you grow and the organization grows? And this is another thing, right? Like if you work for some really cool like HP and all these companies where innovation happens literally on a coffee table.
Yeah.
mm, in most of these organizations, you'll be lucky if it is between 2 to 5% who are innovators, who think very differently, who will find like-minded people and then have a coffee, and then by night you have a prototype, and then you're going, you have a day job, but then you're going, you're figuring out, you're presenting, you get rejected, you come back, you figure out again, you design something else. So I've been through all that to understand that we totally underestimate culture.
Yeah.
And and it comes down to core values. That's where we stay or move, right? We make those tectonic shifts because of that core value, and culture thrives on that. That's like the main blood circulation that it needs. So yeah, so this was like all the 25 years of corporate world. It taught me these in bits and pieces.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure it has an impact, right? All those years of experience. All right. So, as we have seen through this conversation, humor comes very naturally to you in the conversations. Uh, how is that helping you with helping people lead through change or manage change? And also having those conversations, because I think a lot of people when are not always easy to don't find it easy to actually talk about some of the tough
Yeah.
changes, challenges that they have gone through. It's deep rooted, it's something that people don't want to really bring out. It's uncomfortable. So how do you does this humor play a role?
Yeah, yeah, big. So I think this is something I picked up from my mom. My mom has a very dark sense of humor. Sometimes, yeah, yeah, very dark. Like, sometimes I used to be like this slow motion personality at home. She'll say something, 2 hours later, I'll go back. Is that what you meant? It's very late, right? And you used to be like, oh. So people who know me really well have come and told me you're pretty thick skin. It's because I went through rigorous training as a young child. She was such a tough cookie. But I think humor plays a big role in our life. Change comes with these hardcore emotions, right? Of fear, shame, guilt, anger. These are things that we struggle to even talk about. Forget with others. Sometimes we are not even willing to look at ourselves in the mirror and acknowledge some of these. And I found humor plays a huge role in, like, just lightening the whole thing
Yeah.
and allowing for conversations around it. And this is where I feel, if you look at an industry that's in the creator economy, if you look at an industry that is like really rapidly growing and is getting the eyeballs of the masses, it's comedy.
Hmm.
And through
Yeah.
comedy, you're able to call out the most complicated things. When I go and have these talks about change, to make one reflect on their journey from when they're born to today and see how unique they are and how they've not gathered the power of themselves and have gratitude for that journey that they've led, in a matter of 5 minutes, 6 minutes, is very hard, because you have like sometimes you have like 300 eyeballs looking at you and they're very serious, and it scares the shit out of me because I am very scared of a stage itself. So I found this to be first balancing me. It calms me, and humor has this way of, like, connecting um, with people, and they'll remember some joke, they'll remember something I said, and they'll come and always, I've seen people then come and say, you cracked this joke, but behind that I could really get what you're trying to say. And I think that's the beauty of uh,
Hmm.
this, the way you tell stories. Storytelling is very hard. And if you manage to get system thinking, if you manage to get behavior understanding patterns of yours and still go through change, if you can't walk the last mile, to tell your story and change the narrative from a victim to here's what I'm doing, um, then I think you're failing yourself. And humor plays a huge role in it, to make a fool of yourself first, and then to be able to tell complex things as a joke. I sometimes border on the other side. My daughter has a different perspective about my humor. Um, she doesn't like it. Like how I don't like my mom's humor. It's the same story here.
I think she's also probably, after
That's,
enough
she,
to
she
hear
is
this.
is
Oh my
very
God.
dark. Yeah, she's very dark, right? Um, and I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately, I married my kindergarten classmate, so he knows everything. And it's like sitting on the dining table. It feels like I'm sitting with two bullies. They gang up very quickly, and so I don't need, like, when a video releases or my podcast releases. No, I don't need others to tell me what a shit podcast it was or was it good. घर में इतना roasting हो जाती है. Like, anything else is okay. This is enough for me.
Best part is actually you can laugh at yourself. I think that's a
Yeah,
great to have.
yeah, yeah. Like I feel like see, this is where I told you in the morning also. Now I have a problem with letting go, Usha. I don't know how to let go. So they keep me grounded. They keep me so grounded all the time. Um, you need, this is the scaffolding I told you about. Sometimes it will be in the form of friends. You don't need a huge number. It could just be one person, but you need that kind who will keep you so grounded. It'll be like, please, better. Don't fly too high.
Okay, so wrapping us up here, just for everybody who's listening, or who will listen, and those who are undergoing change or feel stuck, when there is a lot of change around, whether it could be work, relationship, it could be, you know, trying to be another version of themselves, right? It could be like, I think you covered all of it. What's one question they should ask themselves as they're going through the process? Like we said, right? How to find the right problem to solve. What's that thing that they should be asking themselves? Because a lot of times we are like outwardly focused, like so many things hitting us, right? But how do you turn that inwards and ask ourselves?
So I think more than a question, um, I'm going to answer it in a different way. So when I settled a bit in Attitude Makeover, I decided I'm going to redesign my life a little differently, the way I want it. So
Okay.
I decided I will not have to go to the office anymore. No, I don't like traffic, so no office. There are a bunch of things I sort of put together as what I would love to do and what I don't like doing. Um, and from there comes the change of designing for that. So I feel more than the question, it's very important to just become aware of patterns. And there are patterns in all of us. Like, it could be how I take decisions. Like, I might be very quick in taking decisions in certain areas. It's not like we're sick in taking decisions everywhere. It's not like we procrastinate in taking decisions everywhere. But there may be patterns of, I'm comfortable taking quick decisions in my professional life. But when it comes to my relationship, I procrastinate. Or it could be, but basically just step back and look at patterns. And I think that is a game changer when you look at patterns, because patterns tell you a lot of things about yourself. The analogy I can give you is, I don't know how many of them would have built a house, but when you're building a house, at some point you decide, okay, now I need to put doors, right? Or like, let's say you're redesigning your bathroom and now you have to figure out tiles. And suddenly, everywhere you go, you observe doors. Oh, this door, it's big. No, no, not for me. Oh, this, oh, interesting. But I like it this way. Start becoming aware of your patterns. I think the
Mm,
moment you become aware of your patterns, you don't need. I've often found this in teams when I used to be managing teams. You have these annual or quarterly or half yearly feedbacks, right? 360-degree appraisals. I feel it is, you need that to understand what others, the Johari window part of it, of you.
mm,
But to just understand yourself, you don't need someone else to tell you. I think a lot of us know ourselves enough to be able to, be honest. It's that honesty with which you become aware, whatever it is. I think it's all of us have both sides. There's a good side, there's a shitty side as well. But become aware, where are you shit and where are you really cool? And the shit part, maybe you it's okay to be shit there, it's all right. Or maybe I'll just clean up the places where I keep my feet. The rest of shit is still okay. Sorry, it's such a bad analogy. But to get your point, right? Like once you're aware, I think then you're responsible, you become more, you don't need others to motivate you to say, hey, Usha, next year I want you to do more. You don't need that because
yeah.
Usha knows. Usha knows. And if Sowjanya is pushing Usha in the wrong direction, Usha's value will tell, hey, hold
Mm,
on, this is what I will change, but these no, this is fine, I'm okay the way it is. It's okay. But I think becoming aware is 60% of change done. Because the moment you identify these patterns, you can't miss it. You
mm,
definitely can't miss it. And I've noticed this when people come to my experiences or workshops. If someone else has nominated them, no,
yeah.
they not only are a rotten tomato themselves, they rot the whole fruit basket of my cohort. So I'm more happy it's smaller cohort, but you've come intentionally into it,
Yeah.
than someone nominating you, because that's not where change happens. You'll have some bit of change, some linear growth. But to actually have an exponential growth of yourself, you need to become aware of your patterns. And it's very simple to start observing. Just like, I have a OneNote where I just put one bullet. Oh, mm, cranky soul today. Very simple things, right? And when you start looking at it, you start seeing, oh, there is a pattern. Like I realize I have two personalities. At work, I'm very you know quick to say yes to everything. At home, I say no to everything because I'm so tired. By the time I come home, I say no to everything at home. The patterns, they tell you a lot of what you're prioritizing, what you're not prioritizing, why you're procrastinating. And then the next phase is ask why.
So it needs some effort, Sowjanya, because
Ah,
not it doesn't come naturally to people, not
yeah,
every to be observant and understand the patterns, like make an
yeah,
effort to note it down. And
yeah.
like I'm not like that. I can tell you that. But so how, like, so when you are going through a situation is where suddenly you seek help, right?
Correct, correct.
Like you want small supports systems, people who can help you navigate that. So is that like if you start observing the patterns now is also an option?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. Yeah, very much. So, you earlier asked this thing of what is one thing you observe with people going through change?
hmm
Um, Time. You know, most of us look at money as our currency. Uh, it's a
yeah,
very finite thing, money. Time, on the other hand, should be our currency. And we give time to everybody. So, this is where we give off our power to others. time is ours. And oftentimes I've seen, whenever I've spoken to people, it's not the intent. All of us know where we want to change. I, I think that's also not like a mystery. Like, it's not hard mysteries there to see to solve. But the challenge is making time for it. We're
Mm.
so busy today. We're in a rut. We're in a race. So I don't know who's put this race with us, but we're in a race. We're in a catch-22 of sorts, in a loop. And the only way to get out of it is carve out time and make time for unlearning. Even if it is 5 minutes in a day or 10 minutes in a day, you need to be able to carve that time. So whether you're stuck today or you're going to be stuck or you're already in the thick of it at the rock bottom, it's all okay. As long as you're able to very unconditionally, non-judgment manner, look at the patterns. See, here's another thing, Usha. We don't need others to talk bad about us. We do it. We're the best. We just know. We just know. Like, I used to scold myself. I don't know how your self talk is, but for a long time, my self talk used to be crap. It's just so crass. It used to be, you idiot, you stupid. What the hell were you thinking? Just such basic thing. You couldn't figure this shit. What the hell is this? Like, I wouldn't do this to my daughter. I wouldn't do this to friends. I wouldn't do this to strangers, but I'll do this every day to myself.
Mm.
And so, time, I think, to answer your question, if you're able to sort of carve out just small time, that's why slow motion multitasking, the shortest time, and observe patterns and become aware. And then don't keep too many work in progress. Keep it down to what is your optimal best. uh, for some it is one, for some it is three. I think anything more than three is too much. So keep it down to that. Learn to say no thereby to others and set boundaries for that. It's an art, it's a learning process, and it takes time.
Yeah. Give ourselves the time.
To say self care is like going to some parlor, I've got some pedicure, manicure. Yeah, you do all that. But then I think uh, covered time, if it just sit somewhere, it's okay. Do nothing. Don't have your phone, but just sit somewhere and reflect, introspect. I think that is a game changer in itself for them.
I think I need to start introspecting more.
I think again, see, you're underwriting yourself. Um, when I came to General Mills and I spoke to Neha and your team before you walked in, um, I wish I had recorded that and played it to you. The way they spoke about you, that doesn't come just from an authority or boss or something. It comes from a different space, and you should be so proud of uh, that. Yeah, the
Actually, now I want to hear what
it
they
was
said.
beautiful. Like, they were like, you have to meet Usha. She is amazing. She's not just a leader. She individually connects with each one of us. She's a delight to work with. There was just amazing things, that full front row. And it was not one or two. Yeah, I wish I had recorded that for you and given that.
Okay.
That could have been a gift.
Now,
Oh, you're amazing. I came home, I remember, and I came and told Shamir, I wonder what people who worked with me will tell about me, because this was so cool to hear. It was so amazing to hear.
thank you so much for that. All right. Well, it was wonderful to have this conversation with you, Sowjanya.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. We could just go on and on, I think, but we'll probably have another episode with a different theme. We covered all of and everything about change,
Yeah,
probably. So we have to. There's so many stories. I know you have to say about your journey, like not just the work and change aspect, but I know there's a bigger story there. Some other time.
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Whew. Wasn't that a whirlwind? I just thoroughly enjoy talking to Sowjanya. Every time I talk to her, there's something to take away. And so much of differential thought process that she brings to the table. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to the channel until we bring another superbly talented leader and inspire you to be a better version of yourself. I'll see you. Take care and keep leading.